One breath. That's all it takes to remind you how fragile life really is. As first responders, we spend our careers caring for others during some of the worst moments of their lives. But what happens when the patient is you? In this episode, we're joined by a fellow paramedic whose life changed after what began as a routine surgery. What followed was a massive pulmonary embolism, a life-threatening event that forced him to experience healthcare from the other side of the stretcher. Today, we'll talk about survival, vulnerability, recovery, and how a near-death experience changed the way he practices medicine and connects with his patients. This is Hearts for Healing.
Welcome, everybody. We got a special guest for us today. His name is Matt Chavez. We're going to really talk about some important information about what happens when injuries occur and then a life threat because of those injuries that you never expect happens. And it can change your life in an instant. In this episode, we're going to really focus on how we feel and deal with injuries and how do we feel and deal with life threats that happen to us. With that being said, I'm Mark, host of the podcast Hearts for Healing. I've been a paramedic for almost 30 years. A lot of that in emergency medicine through hospital, pre-hospital, as well as fire service. To my right is my co-host, Chris.
Hi, I have been in EMS for about 5 years, paramedic for 2 of those years. And I grew up around EMS watching this guy. And I'm excited to be here for this new episode.
And then to my left is one of the reasons why we're here, special guest, Matt Chavez. Take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Mark, Chris, thanks so much for having me. I've been in EMS for 13 years. Got hired by a larger department out here in Colorado. Came out here from California. Was a soccer player and soccer coach out there. Enjoyed my life helping the community in a much different way, like helping coach kids. But I always knew I was going to land in EMS and fire. Absolutely loved it. About midway through my career out here, 6 or 7 years ago, went through paramedic school and been a paramedic and just absolutely loved it.
Just felt that calling.
Yeah, I felt that calling. I always knew I wanted to go paramedic. It's just a matter of, in the department I work for, you get to be on a truck and have some fun and learn a lot of different things on the truck. So I wanted to do that to start.
So before we get into the deep stuff, the heavy stuff, which we're going to talk about, I always like to use an icebreaker question, right? No one usually knows what I'm going to ask. So here's the surprise.
Is this where I leave?
Yeah.
Okay.
You probably want to leave after this question.
Okay. So
you have to pick either a lemon or a lime. Which one are you?
I'm a lime.
Why?
Because it is a great accent to some of my favorite beverages.
Right, Chris, were you lemon or a lime?
I'm a lime because it's a better accent for a lot of my favorite foods.
Oh,
I think I'm a lemon.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because you think you're buying a really good piece of equipment, but really underneath I'm a lemon.
Okay.
Right. So, I could be very broken down quite a bit with all my surgeries in history. But a lot of things I like being a lemon because it can complement a lot of different foods without spoiling it. So I like being a lemon. So
Perfect.
no, my wife asked me if there's a lemon law, right? And can I try and be in? And that hasn't happened. And I told her you got to wait. That's a used model. I'm a used model. Only new cars get lemon laws.
Okay.
Right.
That's good to know. I'll write that down.
All right.
Use
that.
that.
Now that we got that out of the way, and now that you're a lime and I'm a lemon, let's talk about really some more serious information. All right. So that being said, Chris, go ahead and get it started.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about kind of how you got into EMS and how long you've been in EMS, but we're kind of here to talk about some certain situations that you've been through and kind of describe your perspective on how it may have changed your perspective on EMS, how it's made you feel, how it's made you treat patients. And first and foremost, just kind of walk us through before, during, and kind of after your first injury, being your shoulders.
Yeah. So back in 24, I was having a lot of fun outside like I like to do and had a initial shoulder injury that was on a dirt bike and tore part of my rotator cuff and I knew it needed surgery. And after going through talking to the orthopedic doctor and the surgeon, I set a date and I was like, okay, but I've been working on some fitness. And so I had a left shoulder injury. And 4 days after that left shoulder injury, it was a nice, beautiful Saturday morning in the summer. And I decided to go for a hike. And I went for that hike. Everything went great. And I was coming to the parking lot and I was 10 feet from my truck with my hand in my pocket of my good shoulder, my right shoulder, going to reach to get my keys. And I had a sling on this left one. And this curb jumped up and bit me, like grabbed me essentially. No, I clipped my heel, and the rest is led to just sulking in the parking lot for 30 minutes because I augured in, blew apart my right shoulder. I knew something was wrong immediately because I didn't know if my collarbone was broken. I saw my shoulder kind of up and out of the way. I couldn't lift it. Felt like my shoulder blade was out of place.
You knew right away.
It was something I think I sat there for 30 minutes just going, this is not real life. This is not happening. I couldn't lift this one because it was in so much pain because I just jarred it after a couple of days of healing of tearing that rotator cuff. So within 4 days, I had blown apart both shoulders. And yeah, so I sat there in the parking lot and knew I needed to make it to Station 5. I wasn't going to call 911 because we're the worst.
We're the worst.
And a certain Pulp Fiction movie, maybe that's a gentleman says that's just pride, and then I'll let you finish the rest. You can see there's a certain scene there. So made it over to Station 5 by essentially taking the steering wheel and going like this. And yeah, luckily it was 2 turns. I was on Red Rocks on 31st. So I made it over Station 5, and they helped me out, and I was able to start that process of finding out how to cope, how to do life with it not being able to move both shoulders.
So did you go in to the hospital by POV? Did you go by?
So I went by POV in a way. I have some awesome friends on the fire department and some good people that look out for me.
Yeah.
So they were able to get the associated pain management on board, and then I was able to get over there. And that started a cascade of events that were difficult. Starting with I injured both shoulders in such quick succession that they mislabeled this one, and then they canceled an appointment because I thought it was the left one again. So a lot of things started happening at that time that were challenging.
So when you hurt your both shoulders and you were looking at potential lack of movement, I bet that was scary.
Oh yeah, it was. So a lot of people who know me, yourselves included, I think a lot of my identity has been so wrapped up in physical attributes, performance-based, whether that go back to, this isn't necessarily a psychology session, but go back to childhood trauma stuff about having to perform and to earn love, and then working through that, and then being in coaching and playing soccer, like I mentioned, right? Being paid for performance, right? If you don't do well, you're not making that team, or if your team doesn't perform well, you're not coaching anymore, right? And then fast forward into all the things that I do outside, dirt bike, mountain bike, ski, climb. That's a lot of my identity.
So how long were you in healing with that left shoulder when this one got hurt? Was that how far apart?
4 days.
4 days.
So 4 days. So you're 4 days post.
Mm-hmm. Not surgery.
Because you're post injury.
Yeah, post injury.
Surgery.
No, I just on that Friday I finally got into the day before. So day 3 on this, I finally made an appointment, or was able to get in and talk to a surgeon. So they just set a date. That was 2 weeks. It was the beginning of August to have surgery on this. And this was still working at that time. And then the next morning is when I blew this one apart.
So that's even worse.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you're starting from scratch from...
Oh, yeah. Well, I haven't even had surgery yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a blessing or a curse.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm guessing initially when you had that injury, of course, you most likely let your department know.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 days later, you get that other injury. How did that conversation?
The funny side of things is a lot of people do know me, and some people that I love dearly just chuckled at me, but also were very much there for me and just said, "Hey, this is going to be a longer process than I thought." And then so many people reached out, and when the story started getting around, it was just so unbelievable to myself included. I couldn't believe this was happening.
Yeah. So when they finally made the decision to have surgery, which one did they decide to do first?
Well, even though I injured this one first, the left one, I blew this one.
The right side was moved.
Yeah, just disintegrated.
By necessity.
Yeah, by necessity. So went in, made an appointment, and saw the same doctor. He's like, "Okay, all right, I see. This is how we're doing this. Okay." And so switched that surgery to my right shoulder. to make sure that was taken care of. And then this one was going to be a month after that was the tentative date. So beginning of August was this one. And then the tentative date was this one, beginning of September.
So what did they tell you, like total time out of service,
Yeah,
healing?
yeah, 6 to 9 months. If I was able to get both of them within a month, like after get out of the sling, be 4 weeks to 6 weeks at the most, and then get out of the sling and then have this one. And that was on the best case scenario. So,
And we've seen enough surgeries on rotator cuffs to already expect that, you're guaranteeing a recliner for 4 to 6 weeks because you cannot sleep. You cannot.
No.
It's one of the most uncomfortable
that's
surgeries.
why you got to remind me of that. Like, let's just talk about, I'll talk about the injury and stuff like that, but don't that recovery and the inability to get comfortable with 85 pillows. It just doesn't matter what you're doing. It just is like, okay, this is miserable. And you're in that moment. You're like, but you have to remind yourself, and I'm sure we'll get to it. It's like, this will end. This will end. This is temporary. This hurts a lot, but this will end.
So how'd the surgery go?
Surgery went very well on paper. Surgeon said everything went great. He said I had to be under the knife a little bit longer than he expected, up to, he said, almost 2.5 hours, as opposed to he thought he'd be in there for under 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a lot of things. So they had to drill through a couple of my bones and cinch things back up, because everything was so gone. My AC joint, CC joint, there was nothing holding up my scapula. So a lot more destruction in there than he expected. So surgery went well. And then typical Matt fashion, the day after, I took painkillers for 1 day. And then the day after, I was doing step ups on the stairs and just trying to be like, I was training for a few races. I want to keep this fitness. This won't stop me. So I was moving well for the first couple of days. And then day 4 is when things changed on the recovery.
So when they were giving you the pre-surgery conditions and what to expect and potential side effects, you're probably like me, where you're like, yeah, give me the paper, let me sign.
Right. And especially with what we all do, we know there's complications that can happen, right? But back to what we talked about, the pride thing, and also being involved in EMS, fire service, we don't think it could happen to us.
Right.
And another layer on top of that is I was just peak top physical form training for those races. I was just like, I felt really, really good. I was lifting well. I was running well. I was cycling well. So it just was everything was good. I was like, this is going to be a hiccup and I'll get through this.
Yeah. So were you out for that 6 to 9 months? Was that about how long you were off of the line for?
Yeah. It ended up being, there's a lot of stuff that I could never have predicted that happened, but it ended up being, I came back, not to give it away, but I came back in April of 25, which is, I still can't believe that I did that after everything that happened. It wasn't just shoulder surgeries.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful, and I look back now and I'm humbled for sure. Yeah.
How do you feel like, and we'll get to the second topic that we're so anxiously waiting for, but the time frame that you were out as a medic, how do you feel like your medicine was after quite a bit of time off of the field?
Well, I mean, as I said, both of you guys know me. I'm perfect, and I'm great at everything.
No mistakes.
No mistakes whatsoever. No, that's, I think, and I'm also a part of a rope rescue program as well. If you're not practicing medicine, if you're not there talking to patients, it's tough. It's tough because the protocols are there. You can look at them, or they don't change too much. Dosages don't change too much. But yeah, just the talking of patients and the recognition of sick versus not sick, right?
And the rhythm.
Yeah, and the rhythm, perfectly said, right? You have a flow. Everybody has a flow. And that's what kind of takes the biggest hit, right? It's almost like that jump rope. You got 2 people right there, and you're waiting to jump back in, and I'm sitting there, and when I first came back, I was like letting the EMTs and everybody else, yeah, you guys got this one, right? It's not that sick. I got this. I'll get back in there. I promise. I'll get back in there. I promise.
So looking at this one, as you're going through your recovery and you're trying to get back to being Matt, the paramedic firefighter. Obviously, everything was going well. What changed?
Well, as I said, day 4, I had family taking care of me. More specifically, my sister was a saint. I remember it was before my surgery. A little funny story. Before my first surgery, I couldn't move either shoulder, right? And my niece is 2 years old, and I can't lift my arms. I can't wash things underneath there, And I started smelling pretty rank. And there's a bath time with my niece, right? And they're like, well, Matt, you need to get in there and we need to wash you because you need to. So I remember sitting there and I couldn't even get it up out of there, but I'm just sitting there with rubber duckies floating along and things. So yeah, to bring it back, my sister helped me out. I was staying at my dad's place, and just so many people were taking great care of me. And day 4, actually in the evening, getting ready to go to bed and kind of winding down, just recovering, watched a couple of shows and just doing what I can. And I go to get up from the couch and I feel like this weird diffuse back pain that is from my neck, almost trap area, all the way down to my QL, like upper butt on the right-hand side. And all of a sudden it's like somebody just grabbed me and is wringing out a towel and is just getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And I can't breathe. And I'm sitting there going, what's going on? And immediately I think I've been sleeping in a weird position, as you talked about, right? In the recliner, I've been upright, I've been propped, I've been shortened, my legs have been flat.
Muscle spasms are not uncommon.
Thank you. Muscle spasms is what I think. And I've never had them. So I thought back spasm, but I couldn't breathe. So I'm sitting there trying to gasp for air. And my sister's looking at me. She's like, should I call 911? I'm like, yes, you should. But just shaking my head and I'm trying to breathe. She's starting to massage my back, trying to release things. And it's like 2 minutes go by that I haven't taken a breath and I couldn't breathe at all, get any air in. And then
literally feel like suffocation.
Yes, I'm suffocating is what's happening. I'm sitting there and I'm like trying to massage because I had some back stuff that I felt a little bit kind of mid back. And so I'm trying to massage it on the wall. I'm trying to do anything. But then all of a sudden the godforsaken start to narrow, right? You're starting to black out. And I know I've been there before. So I'm like, okay. I was like, this is how I go. Like, I can't breathe. I can't take a breath. I'm going to die right here on my dad's floor.
Did you ever think it was anxiety, or did you really feel that sense of impending doom?
No, I've done impending doom. Like, this is like, it was like a weird calmness. Like, as soon as it started to narrow and it got fuzzy, kind of gray, black on the sides, like right here. And I literally stopped trying to breathe. I remember it specifically. I was like, oh, I'm dying. This is how I go.
One of the best descriptors I ever heard of impending doom is drowning without water.
Yeah. That was perfectly said, because I couldn't get air in and I couldn't understand why. And it was happening so fast that you're trying to massage your back. You have an inclination of what you think it is, and almost like that confirmation bias,
Yeah. I'm curious, like, as a medic,
right?
If you have any split second during this, are you like, I think I'm having this?
There was a split second at the beginning when I couldn't breathe. I said, oh, I wonder if this is a pulmonary embolism. I might have a PE. But then how diffuse it was, and so up towards my neck and my whole back, like that went in and out of my head so fast that I didn't think of that again. I didn't even land on that until.
It's amazing how fast you process.
Yeah.
Right. In life-threatening events, things just slow down.
Yeah.
But your processor speeds up. And it's amazing how fast you can get through a lot of things and then come to a conclusion. Oh, this will be it. I'm dying.
PE came in, heart attack. Like I just went through a few things and ruled them out pretty quickly. Yeah. Way bad things. But I was like, wait a minute, I'm not chest pain. Like, no, it's like, it has to be a back spasm. How am I not being able to breathe? The back spasm. Yeah. Right. And so I was just trying to work on it. And my sister had a heating pad that I had been using. She was like, had that on my back. So yeah, I remember it slowed down and almost stopped, for your point, is when I almost accepted it. I was like, this is not going to die right here. And then I went into, I wish my sister wasn't here to watch me die. That's what I cared about, not anything else. So that was kind of.
It's an odd time to think about that, right?
Yeah, it was weird.
you in your moments where you're facing mortality, your thought is for
Yeah, I
your
was like,
sister and your family.
right,
That's amazing to think about.
right. And then and then the next thought was like, I wish I could text my friends because I have a lot of cool stuff in my house. They need to get there first to claim it, you know, in case I die.
Yeah.
They need to put stickers on it, you know,
Right.
and
Yeah,
post
that's a
notes.
good thought.
This is mine. Because I have a lot of good stuff in my house, you
Right.
know, a lot of stuff, cool espresso machines from Italy and stuff. You just need to get over there quickly.
You know, all those things that we collect disappear in an instance when perspective comes in, right?
Right. And so it was weird to go quickly as like so fast from, oh, I'm going to die. This is how I die, to I wish my sister didn't have to see this.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I was just trying to, like process that. But then everything slowed down. And I don't remember like anything right after that besides all of a sudden being able to take about a 20% breath all of a sudden. So like a quarter, maybe, like a fifth breath. Like, and I got a little air in, and then I was like, and then it kind of just that little air just bounced things back. You know what I mean? And it wasn't narrowing anymore. And it was like, holy moly, what just happened?
How'd your sister describe the event?
Oh, she doesn't like to talk about it. Oh yeah. She like immediately breaks down, and she was doing everything humanly possible between like having 911 up, between, grabbing a little lacrosse ball to try to get massaging my back at the same time, pressing on me. Like
she knew something was wrong.
Oh,
I mean,
she looked at my face and she says she knew that I had accepted that I was going to die. She looked at my face. She's like,
so it was clear to her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So looking at that, obviously you get in the ambulance.
Nope.
You did not go to the ambulance.
So this is where I want to first apologize and look in, my teary eyes right there. I have a lot of good friends and they looked out for me quite a bit. I made some poor decisions after this. Did not go into the hospital right then. Obviously told my sister I was fine, and I started being able to breathe probably about 50%. And started getting more breath, more.
Each breath was getting easier.
Yeah, a little bit easier. Had the heating pad. There's a picture. Oh my gosh, we'd be able to splash it up right now or something like that on the podcast. It's me. I have like a heating neck thing. I have a heating pad. My legs are up, and like I'm teary eyed, and it was just like not moving because I'm like, this feels okay. I could breathe at least 50%. I'm not moving other than this. So that was after I said a few jokes to my sister, so she was able to lighten things up. So didn't go into the hospital, slept there that night. And so thankful I didn't die because I didn't know it was coming yet. I still, in my mind, that confirmation bias was still on, dang, back spasms are legit. Like people who have back spasms, because we've all been on those patients too, where they literally are on the floor and they can't move and they're screaming in pain as soon as they go to move. As soon as they go to like do anything, they can't breathe. And they start breathing like that because they're just in such pain. So I'm like, I'm there. I'm like, diagnose, doctor, sign it off. Good, submit it. That's what I believe.
Yeah. Plus, you're probably not wanting to believe that you were having a PE.
Oh yeah.
Right. So you're probably pushing that off and projecting that off.
Yeah.
Trying to say, if it's a PE, that's a big complication. That may end my career. So it's got to be back to.
Oh yeah, right? We're definitely the great foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
That whole mortality thing, that whole being my livelihood being taken away, and those, not just the big red truck, because I think, and we'll get to it, I processed that fairly quickly after everything that's come and happened. But that performance, that ability to get outside, the ability to love life the way I love life. Oh, that's what I was putting off, I think.
Yeah.
Looking back.
You don't want to lose that idea.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Who am I? And then Zoolander looks in the puddle. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. That's pretty much what I was putting off right there. So I wake up the next morning and I feel a little bit better. I didn't sleep much at all, right? I passed out like forward. I slept there like that. And then woke up the next morning having coffee, talked to my sister, how scary it was and things. And then, I think I'm okay. And then, so I'm having coffee, and then all of a sudden I feel like this kind of big loogie, weird, like, just, oh my gosh, I can't get it out. And I seriously cough, and it's like my mouth is full of what I think is phlegm, something. And I grab it. Sorry to be so disgusting, but I pull it out, and it is a blood clot that is probably about 5 inches or so, 6 inches. And it looks like my bronchial tree.
So do you still have that picture?
Yeah, I do.
With your permission, can we put it in?
Oh yeah,
here
I'll send it to you. Yeah, it's wild. And so again, back to not wanting to believe mortality, all the things. Get it on there. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. This is nuts. Like, well, I got it out.
Good.
We're good. I'm good now.
Okay.
Still don't go to the hospital.
That's about right.
Yeah, still don't go to the hospital. So I look at the camera again. I'm sorry, guys. Coming to my crew in a second. So then I text my crew, hey guys, look at this. And we were going to have a meal with them. They invited me to the firehouse, and they're all like, what are you doing? Go to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I'll just come in and talk to you guys. I'll prove to you that I feel fine and I got it out.
In your mind, it's over.
I'm done.
Yeah.
It's way done. And so go there, firehouse. They're like, go to the hospital. Like, what are you doing here? We love you. You need to go. And I'm like, no, hook me up to the monitor. Hook me up to the pulse ox. Hook me up to the cap. No, I'll show you that and my pulse was 50. No right-sided heart strain or anything that showed on the EKG. Looked great. Cap, no, I was able to breathe up, breathe down, and have the inverse effect and show perfect. Pulse ox was 98%. Absolutely no idea still what was coming to what I had actually still in my lung. So I banter with them.
Do you mind if we kind of explain to the viewers a little bit what was in this?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
So
Love
to
it.
anybody that is watching that is in the medical field, a pulmonary embolism is a blood clot, and specifically within the lung. But it's common that you can get a blood clot from a DVT, a deep vein thrombosis, from sedentary lifestyles, very common post-operation, long flights, things like that. But the clot will travel up kind of through your limbs and eventually make it into your heart circulation and your pulmonary arteries.
It is one of the risks in surgery. And one of the things they look at is called, I remember the term, Virchow's triad. And it comes from exactly what happens when you have surgery. It's when you're in stasis, low blood volume, low circulation, higher clot rate. It comes from a hypercoagulated state from anesthesia, trauma, injury. And then there's the actual injury that occurs that creates like an inflammatory response on top of increased fibrin that's in your body. So you're in this hypercoagulated state. And typically during surgery, you can mitigate some of this by putting pads on your feet, circulating your feet while you're unconscious and doing all these things. And it's amazing as we look at PEs, you know which one has the highest risk for pulmonary embolism out of all surgeries that are out there? Orthopedic surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
As high as 30% of patients can receive a PE. And then on top of that, it can happen up to 18 weeks later, and about 60% of them happen outside of the hospital. And it's amazing if we, they don't tell us that, right? They say, hey, there's risk.
And I found out a lot of this information afterwards. Not only that, that they usually, if you're going to be over 90 minutes, they usually do some for prophylactic, shot of heparin or, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I was underneath for 2.5 hours. So again, with that foreshadowing, I found a lot of stuff out, especially when I started seeing all the specialists after I realized what I had.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So finally swallow that pill. And
how long ago was this from when you first coughed up the...
It was the same day.
Same day.
So, but that afternoon went over to the guys, and they were going to cook me a meal, cook me some dinner. And I remember them looking at me and going, what are you doing? Like, go in, you would have every patient that you talk to go in. If it was me, you'd make me go in. If it was your family member, you'd make me go in. So what are you doing? So that was my finest moment for sure. Because I gave those guys a lot of heartburn, a lot of anxiety of, what if their friend was dead? What if he just left this area right now and that clot moved? And come to find out, I'm finally going to the hospital. I have a doctor on our staff that is that called ahead and really looked out for me. So I drove myself, again, not so smart, drove myself to the hospital, went to the ER, and I just, with all the stuff that had happened these past couple weeks with the double shoulders, so much time in the hospital, so many appointments, I wanted it behind me, right? I didn't want to go back in. And the next day was my birthday. I did not want to, I just didn't want to be in a hospital or not. I knew they were going to keep me. I knew all the stuff that was coming, and I just wanted it to go away.
There's no fast forward button.
I know. And I look back at it now, and everything happened for a reason, oddly. I don't wish it on my worst enemy, but everything happened for a reason. So I went to the hospital. A doctor, ER doctor that I normally drop patients off, saw him, knew me, and just shot it like this, right? When how we're talking, like, hey, Matt, how are you doing? We're going to do a couple things. We're going to do a CT. It looks like you coughed up a little bit of a clot. We'll make sure it did it. The next time after I did the CT, he comes in 10 minutes later, not very long after. And he has the widest eyes. And he looks at me, he goes, and he pulls up a chair, sits down. He's like, how are you sitting there talking to me like this with the largest clot that I've seen in a long time? Pulmonology is on their way down right now. They want to see you, talk to you like this with the vital signs that you have. I don't know how that's possible. So had a right-sided, in my right lung, massive pulmonary embolism that took over and was still in there in 80% of my lung. So yeah, kind of fascinating. When I couldn't breathe, they suspect, after talking to pulmonology and specialists, that it was a saddle.
It was a saddle.
And it sat there and just sloughed off just a little bit.
Broke loose.
And broke loose. Just
For educational point, saddle PE, it's called a saddle because you have a bifurcation in your pulmonary arteries, kind of like where your trachea is. And that is honestly the worst place to get. These patients die really quick. I have seen very few that are alive, and the ones that I have seen pass out on me, or I'm taking them on a transfer on a Hepburn drip, but they're very, very high acuity patients. So yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
yeah, they threw some numbers at me, and I'd be remiss to know. I believe they said 5% of people have PEs this large and 1% survive.
1% survive.
Yeah.
It's a very extremely high mortality rate.
Mhm.
They used to joke years ago, when I first got in medicine, and if you have somebody with a high risk or high potential for saddle PE that goes in cardiac arrest, the best thing you can do is pump really hard in the chest
Yeah.
and try and break
Big loose. Yeah.
So it is a very high mortality rate. And the fact that you described what you did it make a lot of sense after he told you and what you saw?
Yeah. The lack of perfusion that my whole backside or my whole back and that diffuse back pain I had no perfusion, no blood flow, no anything to that right side, especially that right side, but how it sat right here and cut off both of my lungs and the inability to do gas exchange and go full nerd.
Yeah, you didn't have the opportunity to have the classic,
pinpoint test
pain.
No, I just had a huge one that just sat there and we're like, no.
So you weren't the typical national registry,
No,
question.
and that's back to it's funny, back to what you pull from, right? You train and educate, but then you have experience and leads to better judgment. Well, everyone that has weird stuff, I kind of explain that I run on a patient, how I treat patients. Now you have a PE, we're going in, especially if they have anything resembling a surgery up to like you're talking about. Even in the last 2 months, I'm like, hey, this is, and I can level with them and look at them in the eyes and be like, I promise. Yeah, let's go in and make sure we're not missing something here.
One thing that's always helped me as a paramedic and as a human being is just to remember truth is generally three things, right? It's objective. There's facts that you just can't deny facts, right? Gravity. There's objective information that is factual. Then there's information that is interpreted through subjective information. That is, and the third part, which is probably the biggest tool that we have as paramedics, is when truth becomes perspective. And when you experience things in your life that you can now use with other patients and see it through your eyes and their eyes, and we gain empathy and sympathy. And so perspective is a huge component to what we do. We shouldn't gain perspective the way you did.
No, I don't wish that.
But it does help us in our life. So now that you have this perspective and you're looking towards this, when you were realizing that, oh my God, I could have died, did those feelings you initially had with your sister and, your thoughts originally, did they become more amplified, or did you have different thoughts altogether?
amplified is an understatement. I was so raw is a better, like everything was like, I have to explain it as I maybe would see. This is almost an exaggeration, but not really. I would grab a coffee cup in the morning after this happened, and I'd be like, "This is the most beautiful coffee cup. Oh my god! I traveled somewhere and I got this. Sweet mother, I can't believe I was able to do it." Raw, just emotional, loving, caring, but the waterworks and just the inability to control what was coming for that first probably 2 weeks after everything, when you get told you should have died, and it comes from not an external source by my own doing. It comes from inside. So, and a lot of tests were then going to be performed, and I was going to see a lot of specialists, and there was really not anything
it's not
tangible
over yet.
No, this was just starting. And so those first 2 weeks, because of what they said, it's funny that they put me on blood thinners at the hospital. Go back to the story, and showed me where the clot was. It was fascinating. It was massive, and they scanned through it and rolled through. I see this thing. They were, especially the pulmonologist. She was amazing. She was like, "This is massive," and she was like, "Come here, come here." She had like just showing people. I was like, "Oh, cool, I'm a little specimen." But they hold me until not quite all overnight, but into I got to see my birthday at the hospital overnight, like in the early morning, and literally, you know what they say? They told me, like, "Yeah, I didn't know this. I thought they would go get it, suck it out of there, like, yeah, let's do surgery or whatever, like scope me." No, they were like, "We're going to put you on a blood thinner. It'll solidify on its own, and then your body will break it down on its own." I was like, "No, go get that thing right
That's
now."
going to take way too long.
Yeah, I was like, "Who's got a garden hose?" It's like, somebody hook up a vacuum.
Yeah.
Let's go in there. And then they had the audacity to say, "Yeah, don't bump into anything too hard. Don't do anything. Don't, if you fall, come back in, but don't like just sit there for 2 weeks while it solidifies." I'm like, do you know who you're talking to?
Yeah, one of the most active people I know, and telling you to sit still on top of your two surgeries.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, so that 2 weeks when they were like, "Hey, you still can die. By the way, complications," and now they're brutally honest, which was great. The parts can still break off. You can have a stroke. You could have a MI. You can have another PE, or you can float around, because there was little ones in my left side too.
So you want to experience all of it.
Yeah.
Right. So you're trying to just check them off on the box as you go through the hospital.
Right.
Right. So,
and
this
so
is cath lab, and
yeah, here you go. And so they're like, "Yeah, don't do anything to it, because it could still break apart." Obviously, one just broke off that you coughed up. There's still stuff probably floating around, and you can have all these things. So just, if you feel something, come in.
That's going to mess with your mind.
Yeah.
That's true.
So you still think you're going to die. You're like, "Oh, I'm not out of the woods," as you pointed out earlier. Not even close. It's not even solidified yet. So yeah, those first 2 weeks was the rawness, the uncomforted emotion, the ability to be so thankful for almost everyone and everything I came in contact with. It was beautiful, scary when you realize that, but it was absolutely beautiful, and I'm so thankful I went through it. It sucked in the moment, only because you swing so far. Nobody's perfect, and I'm not perfect, but I've done a lot of work in the just self-work therapy and things, and realized that, hey, I can't be a robot in black and white, but I also need to have some emotional maturity. But this like swung it so far. Like I'm usually this analytical guy. It swung it so far, I didn't even know it was possible over there.
Right.
I was like feeling everything. I was in tune with the world and everyone. I can read people. I remember going to a coffee shop, and I was like, I felt like this energy from this lady over there that was just ordering coffee. And we ended up outside, and I was like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And she just let go, and just everything is. But I felt something right before. It was just turned on, and I couldn't turn it off at start. So it was rough, but also, as I said, really, really cool in its own weird, messed up way.
Yeah, I think again, you're going through this. It's hard to say you can grow from a lot of tragedy, you can grow from a lot of pain. It is there. They used to say, what was it, the old comment? Repetition is it's the mother of teaching is repetition.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Failure its father. And in your failures, as you've gone through this and learned, what have you learned from looking back and going, what could I have done? Should I have gone to the hospital right away? Would they found it right away? Because that to me, you didn't have any permanent damage. You didn't have any.
Well, I do have some permanent damage. So when I first kind of went to my follow-up CT scan, because I had a couple follow-up CT scans, they estimated 50% of my lung was dead. So that kind of knocks you down a peg. And so you're doing these things, and I'm on blood thinners, and they had to push back this surgery 3 months because they wanted me on 90 days of blood thinners before they do this surgery. So that's now being pushed back. And then I'm going up to see hematology, pulmonology, all the ologies, to make sure I don't have clotting issues or what have you. And I've luckily been able to, I didn't think I had weird clotting issues because I've been able to mountaineer and climb up very, very high before and had no issue. Before. Yeah. So I've been able to do things that I would have probably found it before now. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think so, but that's still up in the air. You're taking all these tests, getting all these blood tests. And so fast forward, you ask about permanent damage. Fast forward is the lung, can you regenerate? And that's something that's really cool as well, because it's perfused twice, right? The inside, obviously with the alveoli and gas exchange, and then the outside, that wrap that we have around it, right? And so each CT scan, the next one was 20% dead. And then finally, they estimate the end one was about 5-ish%. There's still a whited out section at the bottom down on my right lung. But absolutely wild that I was able to be here with only that percentage dead. So,
yeah. And going back to like us talking about still not knowing what was going on in the moment.
Yeah.
And thinking back to it of like talking to the crew about, we don't know what was going on. I might have been dying, to you then fast forwarding in the hospital, and the doctors were saying, no, like what you were experiencing, you were actively dying, but it just never progressed to the point of you dying.
Yeah.
Which that's a hard thing to cope with, honestly, because not a lot of people experience that, especially an active guy like yourself. But to hear like, no, like what you were experiencing, that was like you were dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and back to what your question was, Mark, about would I have done anything different? It kind of ties in to realizing, yes, I was dying, accepting that, and being not okay with that. It's not the right phrase, but also knowing that I had to go through it the way I had to go through it. And you're asking what I've changed. I would have changed things because I gave a lot of heartburn to my friends and family, the way I handled it. So I wish I didn't put them through that. But in terms of what I went through and how I went through it, and the perspective that I've gained and the appreciation that I've gained in life and how I approach life now, I wouldn't change a damn thing. It's freaking,
so you're leaning.
It's a weird, like I look at it now is I got to go through that. Because most people, as I said, I don't wish it on them and I don't want them to go through that, but I got to.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky that I was able to go through that and be right here talking to you.
Did being a paramedic make it easier or harder to go through this?
Well, harder in the ways of I knew enough to be dangerous. I knew enough to maybe not listen to my gut feeling or confirmation bias or my friends or like, oh, I got this. I've seen this before, or I've handled worse, or
not me.
Yeah, not me is the great one we talked about earlier, right? So yeah, I think that and then also it helped. It helped a ton because I was able to understand that this isn't the end of the world, right? I was able to understand that I could do other things. I was able to, not necessarily just a paramedic, but what I've done in this life and the people I've come in contact with and the travels I've done allowed me to be like, hey, instead of phrasing it like, oh, I can't work right now, or I can't ride the big red truck, or I can't practice medicine, I had to start framing it as what I can do in this moment. Mm-hmm. Otherwise I had to be present. Like, what can I do? Well, I can make a bowl of oatmeal now because this one, even though I had surgery yet, I could at least reach this far. Right.
So micro-compartmentalization, right? So
Right.
just taking little steps at a
You
time.
had to, right? You had to. Otherwise, you'll sit there and spiral. Sit there and be like, I can't, or comparing yourself to what I was, who I was just even last month in training and all the things I was doing. If I sit there and focus on that, you'll destroy yourself. So not to say I didn't have days like that, and I still didn't like struggle with that throughout, right? But I would try to quickly validate those feelings. Be like, yeah, this does suck. Yeah, you can't do that right now. But what can you do? And who are you? You're still a friend. You're still a son. You're still a brother, right? Just because you're not a firefighter right now or paramedic right now, right? You still are all these things.
It really talks about like your identity prior, right?
Yeah.
So the identity of who you are and what you're losing.
Right.
And now you're gaining a new identity, new perspective.
Yeah.
And which adds to the new you after facing a life threat like that.
Oh, but it opens up a weird portal and a weird thought process. Like it shifted my perspective completely on how serious even the mundane and the daily stuff really is.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter 5 minutes from now. It doesn't matter tomorrow. It doesn't matter next week, next month. Majority of the time, what we're dealing with and what we deal with, either traffic or somebody cutting you off or just all the little stuff, the grocery, insert wherever, I would say 90% of the time. So that was the focus on those building months. And what can I control? I did a lot of breath work. I read a lot of things about CO2 and the Bohr effect. So I started nerding out and being like how to create more affinity for oxygen by actually doing breath work. Yeah, and changing that. And so that way, and that's just full nerd stuff. Obviously, my crew and some EMTs that I've hung out with are going to roll their eyes and be like, "Oh, he's talking about the Bohr effect, Dr. Bohr over here."
Talking about the Haldane effect.
Yeah, so I started reading a lot of books and trying to work on breath work and kind of meditative breath work and just trying to be like, okay, what can I control? I know, and this was at the time when I had 50% lung death. And so I started that was my daily work of like, okay, what can I control? I can control my reaction to this and my attitude towards this. And then also these little things I was starting to gain control back. So let's start with the little stuff and then build.
So talking about like a roller coaster of emotions, did you experience any symptoms after that where it was kind of like, oh man, I hope this isn't happening again? While, being home on blood thinners?
Yeah, I actually ran into a couple of complications. So I had this surgery. So they took me off blood thinners for a little bit and put me right back on because I was going to be on blood thinners. They wanted to be on for at least 3 months after this surgery as well. So 3. And then if I was okay, then they'd do the surgery, then another 3. And then right after this surgery, I was doing PT and this surgery failed. So I backed down, what they did cinched up and all stuff. So this failed. And at the time I was having some pretty significant shoulder pain and upper chest pain right here, kind of where my pec minor and pec major are. And so, yeah, that scared me immediately. Now I went to the other full side. Oh, here we go again. When it was just kind of the sutures and the stuff that was failing on that side. But luckily that's all it was. But yeah, just those kind of things set me back, and being like, oh man, I'm never going to get better. This is, and kind of being okay with starting to understand that I probably wasn't going to come back to the fire department if everything kept going this way.
Yeah. How was that internal conversation about what if I have to let go of, what I've been for so long?
A little bit of poor me at first, for sure. A little bit of poor me, but as you gentlemen have met a couple other people via the job and who we're talking about it, and what we've seen with people that we know, whether it be, let's just talk about cancers or other things in this life that can come in so fast and be so devastating, you kind of becomes, like I talked about, I'm not going to say not serious, but you got to go, wow, like I'm still going to be mostly better, even if I can't necessarily throw a ladder or pull hose or what have you. Like I'm alive, and I could go do something else.
Yeah, it's easy to say. You hear this a lot from from people when you're deep in your feelings and
Yeah.
the pain that you have, and you're trying to process. And sometimes it looks like you're just, you're kind of in a reclusive state. And some people will come say, they'll say, well, it could always be worse. And the answer, yeah, yes, it can.
Yeah.
Right. It can always be worse, and it could also always be better. It doesn't take away the feeling you're having. It doesn't,
Perfectly said.
make your feelings invalid. But you have to allow yourself to go through the process of mourning, in
Yeah.
a sense, go through the abilities to walk through this. Because eventually you're going to say, oh, yeah, you know what? Others have it way worse than us. It's easy to go, first world problems, right? And the, the answer to that is, I have to have time to process.
Right. And what you're speaking of is validating your own feelings and
Right.
your own loss and mourning that, right? And that's okay.
You literally lost a part of it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay to be upset. That's okay to be angry. That's okay to do those things and validate those feelings and sit with those. Maybe it's a day, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month. That's all okay.
Yeah.
But I hope if you're going through something like that, you have the tools or the support to be able to be like, hey, this will be okay. I'll get through this. This is what I said right at the beginning. This will end. This challenge, I don't know why it's happening yet. I had no idea because I wasn't at this perspective yet.
Yeah.
That I'm sitting there across from you all like, yay, there was a lot of heartache, hardship, second guessing. Why me? This sucks. And why didn't I just die? I mean, I had those right in those first probably 2 weeks. Those were a lot of those, right?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
The last statement you just said, because it's really important. We switch gears really fast in tragedy,
Mhm.
and that comes a lot of who we are as EMS providers and paramedics and firefighters and MTs. One of the things it's amazing, you said, you went from, oh my God, I'm dying, to why don't I just die?
Mhm.
Right? You went through two broad ends of the spectrum
Mhm.
within the trial and period that you were having. And that just shows the spectrum of the feelings that you have going through life-changing events. And it's important, again, to lean back into this, is having a good support network, talking to people, getting to counselors, talking to friends. Don't just be internal with it 100%, because you're going to have this realm of feelings you never even thought you'd ever think of, right? I doubt you woke up and you thought you're ever going to say to yourself, and why didn't I just die?
Mhm. That's perfectly said. I mean, I know I saw you in passing when I was going through that stuff, but I saw you quite a bit.
Mhm.
And I saw another gentleman that you may know. His name's Dean, and there's another couple people that on a daily work basis were a support system that was even outside of my normal, should I say, friends and family right there, but their work. You'd come to work and I would have another family. I would have other people that I was able to confide in that were going through their own stuff. And
Yeah.
that's what I've learned a lot from this as well, is like most people are fighting something. Most people are going through something. And to have grace and empathy for you, because you may first be like, well, say their thing is going to throw my sister under the bus right now. Beautiful woman, Corinne. But she would come sometimes while I'd talk to her and try to catch up with her. And she worked for a large coffee company, and she talked about managerial stuff. And oh my gosh, this was this and this and this and this. Yet I would just got off shift and maybe had a couple, fatalities and other things like that. But what I'm getting at is not to discount her.
Right.
That's not the point of this. The point is we all are dealing with something. And she was dealing with a lot and felt confident enough to talk to me about it and to share about her day that was tough, right? And I think that's what we can learn from, is to have grace and empathy for ourselves and just stop the comparison as best as possible, and also have grace and empathy for others and what they're going through
That's well said.
on a daily basis, if we can, as best we can.
It goes back to that perspective aspect, right? When someone is barking at you about this guy cut off and
Yeah.
they jumped in front of me, and it was a horrible traffic day, and we're like, well, I just had a horrible day too, because I just had to tell their loved one that they loved for 30 years is dead.
Right.
And I had to go to another one and pick up and terminate a child, and then it just and then what happens is you lose that grace, you lose that empathy, because I don't want to use the word trivial, but your thought process now again looks at them and goes, it's really not that bad, even though in their world. I'm gonna throw my daughter under the bus because she was the best way to give me perspective on something. she's 20, she's older now, 24, 25. And so she was probably about 4 or 5. And we're playing, right? Doing the dad-daughter thing, throwing around. She cuts her finger. And she just cries and drops and says, "Oh my God, this hurts." And she's tearing up and she's bawling. Paramedic dad, rub some dirt on it. Let's go. It's just a little cut. It's not that big of a deal. And she looks at me and she says, dead face, she goes, "But Dad, you can't feel my pain." And I'm like, wow, that's very well said for such a young little girl.
Mhm.
Because the reality is we tend to project our feelings, we project our thoughts, and we think that other person is going to be the same way, and they're not. They're going through something, right? Everyone goes through something. Everyone has those pains. They're all perspectively different, and it's important to understand them as people. It's important to understand that as healthcare providers, husbands, family members, that we have to look at what they're saying, because what they're saying might be the last time they say it.
Mm.
I think that's also true. I've had that happen where I've blown off some friends. Yeah, I had a feeling I should have called, reached out, and what they're talking about is really not that big of a deal. Call tomorrow, find out there is no tomorrow for that.
Mm.
And so I think that's really important to understand about empathy. It's about compassion, about grace, and having that new superpower of understanding someone else's feelings.
Well,
Right?
Yeah, I'd equate it to a superpower. And we don't know, to even extrapolate that further back, is like we don't know their story. We don't know, even though it may see, for an example, they may have gotten worked up or gotten upset about this little thing that happened. We see this one event. We have no idea the traumas they may have gone through. We don't know their story. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know their upbringing. We don't know any of that. So to treat them with the utmost respect in that moment, and to do the best we can, talking about when we come not only to the interactions when it comes to daily just life, but us as providers. I think that's the best thing we could possibly do, is just show up, and with whether it's 3 a.m., even though those are tough, they're at 3 a.m. and the person called for something that is seemingly mundane, is to treat them with the utmost respect and have grace and forgiveness in that moment, right? And provide good care.
Yeah. I look back to a moment in my career where we all get burnt out. It's kind of inevitable to not go through a certain phase like that. But you go on patients that hospice care, or maybe they are post-op with orthopedic surgery and they're not to their greatest ability, not to their normal, and family is leaning on you as a provider for some emotional care, because they've been watching their loved one struggle to do their daily tasks, and that's super hard. And being burnt out, I just want to go back to the station and sleep. Like there's no immediate life threats. Like we're okay, but my puppy, going through a pretty unexpected total hip replacement, watching something that I love so dearly, being so much pain and not being able to function. Funny enough, kind of just changed a lot of my perspective. And it was just such a refreshing moment, to then go on calls where people are relying on you for emotional support for, a non-emergent patient. But at the same time, I know this is really hard to watch somebody that you love and somebody that trusts you a lot not be at their full potential right now. And you just have this super enhanced, like we said, maybe superpower, but emotional connection, just because of your little world that had some sort of tragedy in it. You're like, man, other people are going through this too. And I didn't see it up until I had something happen to me.
Mm-hmm. No, very well said. I think my tuning fork is, I'm not going to say we can always be better as humans, as people, as medics, as firefighters. We can always strive to be better, but it's bumping right now. I can read people very, very well, and I'm usually able to. My crew says they see the crazy in my eyes, so they start listening better, you know? Um, but no, I'm usually able to get more bees with honey and to be able to listen to that person and validate their feelings and make them feel like in that moment, I'm all them, you know, and that's all I care about in that moment, which I do. I truly do. And I didn't, and you asked a question, how has it changed me as a medic and how is it made me better or what have you? Oh, it's like, as I've had a lot of great mentors and there's a lot of great providers on the job I work in and some people that have shown me the way. Right. I think I'm doing pretty good right now. And as far as listening to those patients, being able to treat them accordingly, my decision making has gotten faster.
So it's overall improved your paramedicine or your medicine
Yeah.
in general. You're
Oh, yeah.
more in tune to the patient. You're more attentive.
Yeah.
You're more inquisitive. And because of that, you're able to get the decisions faster.
Yeah. I listen to every little, and I'm able to, and it's odd that I'm able to talk like this. And if something's going on, whether my officer's gathering more information or what have you, I can hear that conversation while still paying attention and glean information from even the third conversation for the betterment of the patient.
Your processing
Oh,
power.
it's just bumping right now. It's, you know, that and the general level of stoke that I have to be one alive. And I think my crew or most people I work with would sometimes request less stoke because I'm running in chest bumping people and that I got two better shoulders, you know?
Right.
But no, it's beautiful. It's I love what I do and I love the guys I work with.
Have you been on a patient that had a PE yet?
Yeah.
And how'd that feel?
Yeah, it felt.
Did you go yours is just a little one?
Exactly. I completely, everything I just said, I discounted them completely and said, hey, look at mine.
Yeah,
and I bragged. Yeah, right. I should have. And I actually coughed one up right in front of them just to prove it. No, it's the thought process, or should I say having that in when I do my differentials, especially if I hear surgeries or falls or, you know what I mean? Or I stop my blood thinners for a little bit, or no, I have AFib, but I'm not on blood thinners. Like there's cues that I just sit there and really key in on. And yeah, I've been on those patients now. I'm like, no, I know this feels weird. I know I don't want to scare you, but this is what I think was going on. Only because it sounds very, very similar to someone I know.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Is what was the first experience like after that on somebody with some PE symptoms? But
yeah, pretty much I held him like a baby and I walked him into the hospital, you know, is what I felt like. I actually wrote in. Yeah. I wrote in. I was like, they was just like, yeah, I have this weird, I just had ankle surgery. I was like, no, I'm writing in. I was like, it was just one of those things, right? It was almost like I was back out of medic school when everybody gets 12 lead, everybody gets everything. I'm riding in on everything. It's almost like when I came back, I was pinging.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
You know, you went through you know, the surgeries are one thing, you know, going through a giant PE that potentially could have taken your life is another. And, you know, I would find it odd that you didn't walk out of it a changed person.
Yeah.
A changed provider or, you know, in some way gaining the perspective to make something different. Whether I would also be, wouldn't have been surprised if you said, you know what, I think I've probably going to walk away from the fire service and I'm going to go live a life that's worthwhile and just get out there and do the things I never thought I would ever do. Because I've had friends do that.
That was a consideration.
Yeah.
That crossed my mind. That was actually closer than a lot of people realize. That's something I haven't shared with too many people, is that I was probably, I was one more setback in timelines. I had a timeline in my head that if I wasn't back within a year from when this all started, that I was going to pop smoke and you weren't going to hear from me besides a postcard that you got from a country that you probably have never heard of. So I was going to go live a life. I was going to go get out of here because as much as I have spoken about how much I love what I do, it's not everything. Right. It's not my only identity. And it's just, there's so many other amazing things in this world to experience and to do, and I would have found a way to still uh, get that validation and have that source of fixer feeling that we all get, and we feel really, really good, right, when we do what we do. So I would have found another way to do that, or just been a surfer somewhere in a random country, you know.
Yeah, just head to
So
Hawaii.
yeah, and then skiing in northern Japan, you know. So
One thing I did want to ask that wasn't really on the agenda, but it's something that this program or this platform is really designed to do is mental health. How you kind of talked about it a little bit, but not specifically. Like, how is your mental health? How has this caused you any sort of mental health symptoms, anxiety, depression, PTSD, anything like that? Um, but we've kind of discussed a little bit of how it's changed your perspective on things. But as far as mental health wise, how has that been?
well, if you were to ask a lot of my friends and family, there's quite a bit of what I deal with in terms of just how I approach life. I'm kind of like Wile E. Coyote, you know, jumping off first and then asking questions later. But that's changed, and it ties into the mental health aspect. It changed in how I approach things. The really cool thing is, when I got on this job 13 years ago, mental health wasn't necessarily as talked about as it is now and as widely accepted. I had some military friends that I knew that were struggling. And then myself with just relationships in general, like why were things not necessarily working? I got the dream job. I got got the car, got the house. Why can't I settle down? Why can't I be a good partner? And so I started the work with therapists and psychologists, and just trying to be a better person in general. And I think that's along with my travels and exploring the world and seeing different perspective in different countries, third world countries, and just having life experience. Those two things have kind of kept me above floating above that kind of that line that we can all kind of be dragged down by, like what we see and what we do. And this had a potential to really take me down, especially those first couple of weeks, as I talked about after all this happened. Um, at no point, luckily, I know I said, why didn't I just die? That's what I said earlier. But that was more for like if I can't do anything else, like, what am I here? What's my purpose? Yeah, what's my purpose? And so I was able to strip that down and find out what that actual statement meant. If I can't do this, why did this happen and what's my purpose? So talking of the mental health, I was able to get to that fairly quickly with the tools I've earned and worked on for the last 11 years in therapy, off and on for years, whether it be relationship therapy, whether it be, hey, I saw some really bad stuff. I had some kid calls, or I had some really bad things I saw. So I've always luckily reached out. But yeah, I would say that was pretty well handled. I luckily do not deal with anything still after all this happened. My identity is even stronger, and actually if the big red truck left tomorrow because of the work I did during this adversity and this challenge, great. Where are we going? What are we doing? Something sweet's out there. Something so cool is out there because it's happened for a reason. And if it's gone right now, then let's rage. Let's go find it. So that's been really cool. There's a tipping point, but I think those tools got tested. Those tools and the avenues worked. But I will go back before this all happened. Oddly, I've now been able to put some things. You talk about mental health. So had a rash of bad deaths and some kid stuff going on in early 24. And I didn't realize I was not coping well. Bourbon was my friend, more so than others. Usually I enjoy good beer, good glass of bourbon, but usually over 4-day. Just like the in-between days, it just doesn't do well. We have some interrupted sleep, just doesn't do well. But I was finding that I was 2 glasses a night, didn't matter what night, and I was doing that and enjoying going out and just hanging out with some friends that normally work in that industry. And And so I was just starting to crawl myself out of that and start to train again, like I mentioned before these injuries happened. And so when looking back, I was struggling with some of that stuff. And I was starting to head down a road, and I was luckily had some tools working out and um, registering for some races, and some things were starting to pull me out of that. But this obviously was a sledgehammer and decided to pull me out of that because I didn't drink the whole time I was on blood thinners. And not that I've ever had an issue with alcohol, I was just becoming more.
Yeah.
Like I just, yeah, because I'm performance based, if I have alcohol, usually it knocks down, like if I'm going to go for a ride the next day, if I'm going to go play. So I like to go play. So I look back at that. You asked about the mental health, and I can actually look back at the early 2024. I was struggling.
See the struggle.
Yeah, I was struggling with some stuff, and those tools weren't completely utilized, and maybe I didn't have the right ones. And maybe this happened to give me better ones to be able to reflect.
Looking at our EMS providers out there, what do you say to EMTs and paramedics and any healthcare provider? Because physicians are the same way, PAs are the same way, and we're all kind of really bad patients. What would you tell them about ignoring symptoms, or just saying it'll be okay, I can push through this, or what would you tell them?
We don't know everything. We don't. And sometimes, I mean, I love the doctors and things. Some of the ones I ran into still didn't feel very helpful, and still didn't know it as well. But going in and getting a baseline and asking for help, like you just asked about the mental health thing, right? Asking for help and being like, hey, I don't know this. This is a weird symptom, especially when it comes to, we know our bodies, right? We know if we're more lethargic or can't breathe as well, or having some weird chest pain that's been persistent. It's one thing if you were, swinging an axe in the yard and all of a sudden you have a little bit of rib pain or something like that right here because maybe you strained something, right? You have some tangible stuff. But also if your storyline lines up, like recent surgery, 2 shoulders, oh my gosh, you were underneath the knife for a while, within the week, oh, can't breathe. Maybe you should go in.
It's probably
Yeah, maybe PE would be a good thing to rule out. Yeah, I would just say, listen to your body, listen to your friends, trust your gut. And don't let pride get in the way, because much like some things that we're talking about, mental health and suicide and things of that nature, we don't, in that moment, I can't imagine what somebody's thinking when they're thinking about suicide and taking their own lives. Think of the ripple effect. So if I can then bring it back to my situation, if I don't go in and I just write it off and do things like that, think of my friends and loved ones and hey, could I have done more? Could I have helped? And you mentioned calling friends, and maybe that could be a last conversation. I would just think of others, try to do that. Try to be like, hey, if something were to happen, yeah, it's no big deal to me. But what about my niece? What about my family? What about my wife? What about my things of that nature? Think of your loved ones. That's all I'm saying, is think about all those people. And I'm sure you'll go get help if you think like that. Because I did, as soon as I can look back now, I'm like, dang, especially as I said, my crew will probably get a chuckle at this conversation right now, but because they'll never let me hear the end of it, which rightfully so.
It's funny. I had a mentor of mine tell me one time, if you're struggling on a call, or you're struggling to figure out what's going on with a patient, just simply go to the other side. And it was something that's always stayed with me, not only when I practice medicine, but as well as in life, right? Change your perspective and see things from a different side. 2 people can be telling the same story, but from 2 different vantage points. And sometimes you have to go to the other side to see the perspective. And so I think that's what's also really important about your story. And it helps us guide and see the perspective of others, of those that go through life-threatening events, how it changes people, how it changes individuals. And I think it's really important, as anything and everything, there's a life lesson and learning out of it. If there's just one thing that you can learn out of it, it's you met your objective. If there's the one thing that you took out of this that you learned from, and you wanted to share that with audiences, what would it be?
This is odd to say, but just like adversity or other things, is that we get to experience this life. We get to love. We get to get hurt. We get to do all these things. And that's what I'd say. Like, I look at this as a privilege. That's my perspective on this. I got to suffer. I got to go through this. And now it's changed how I look at life. So in a weird way that may come off interesting, but I got to go through this. And it's, as I said, there's a weird, amazing beauty to that. And I'm here for a reason. So I got to go through this. And so if you can try, when things are challenging, if you can try to see like, hey, there's going to be an end reason for this. I can't see it right now because it's like this. It's like, especially it was so dark. I was just walking around like this. I wish I had a cane, but I can use it, So, but yeah, I had no idea what was up, what was down. I hit a new basement level I'd never found before, a new low. But that new low has shown me that, hey, you can climb out of that. Right? You can, and that new high may be a different high, but it's still really cool.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on today. We do have a gift for you. So this is our challenge coin. This challenge coin is meant to resemble our appreciation for both you and your story, but also to encourage others watching to share their story, because we really want to change the EMS culture to be EMS, fire, military. You can talk about these things, and we love to hear them, and I think it's good for us. But we appreciate you for coming on. We appreciate your story. We hope that this helped you in some sort of a way. I loved running with you. I miss running with you.
Yeah, I want to thank Matt, thank Chris, thank our audience. And as always, as we look to move forward with more and more of these stories, hopefully someone out there learned something from your story, maybe was changed by it. And as always, guys, thanks and stay safe.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.